Welcome back into the Diehards, episode 3, and Roll Tide.
Roll time.
Roll Tide.
Joined here with Jimmy, Kuso, and Harris. We got a great show for y'all today. Just wrapped it up. We recapped the picks from last week that unfortunately we couldn't record, but relive some of those good moments. Then go through our winners and losers, break down the Tide and the huge win in College Station from this last week. Then look ahead to the Arkansas game. Everybody make their score predictions. And then, of course, give our predictions against the spread for the slate next week that looks to be a good one. So I'll kick it back to our past selves for the good show, and hope y'all enjoy. All right, well, let's get into these games. Friday night, we had Nebraska at Illinois. Unfortunately, like we talked about last podcast, we had to cut out the picks. Missed a great moment from Harris where he explained why he was so high in Nebraska. So we all tailed him. Everybody covered. I'll let Harris take it away.
Yeah, I really apologize for that, for all the technical difficulties, because I loved my take on Nebraska. It turned out hitting for everybody. But basically, I took this game back on July 28th with Nebraska at plus 4.5. The line closed at 3, so I closed the better line there back in July. And they cruised 20-7 to a victory. Never looked like they weren't going to cover. Never looked like they weren't going to win the game. Free money for everybody. Free win for the boys. So, yeah.
Yeah, like Harris touched on, it was kind of an expected win, but a big win for Matt Rule. His first Big Ten win in Nebraska. I feel like it's been a while since they've gotten a win in Big Ten play, especially on the road. But, yeah, good win for Matt Rule. That's really all I got to say about it.
You know what? I'm going to counter you on that one, Jim Dog. Was this really a big win for Matt Rule? Like, the dude just beat Illinois 20-7 in Week 6 for his first Big Ten win. I think a better spread for us to, or a better betting line for us to bring on the podcast for Nebraska. Does Nebraska get 10 wins at any point over the next 5 seasons? Or should we do 10 seasons? I really do not have very much confidence in betting the over on either one. I mean, Nebraska is just irrelevant, and so is Illinois, but like, good Lord, I'm not sure if Matt Rule can do it here. Who wants to get a bunch of cornfields in Nebraska these days?
Yeah, the portal is, and everything like that, like we think it might be treating Alabama poorly. A team like Nebraska is catching the raw end of everything. I mean, like, tradition and things like that already are mattering less and less. Now trying to attract somebody to a school in Nebraska when you can go to USC or all these places with the flashy coaches. I don't know if Matt Rule is really going to get the job done. I don't know if they're getting another natty since the 90s, but in our lifetime.
I don't think they hit the 10-win mark in 10 seasons at all. Not at this rate, at least.
No. I don't either. I think we move on to a couple of teams that are actually looking like they're going to be relevant over the next few years.
Yeah, so we got to start it off with the noon game on ABC. Not big noon kickoff, but Oklahoma versus Texas at the Texas State Fair. This game was everything that we wanted it to be. Awesome game, had everything, special teams plays, turnovers, only 4 punts the whole game. Really, from the jump was an awesome watch. What were y'all thoughts?
I was just going to say that the game always lives up to the hype for me every time I watch. I know last year was a blowout, but, in years past, this game just always has insane moments, and this year nonetheless. I wasn't really high on Oklahoma coming into the week. They haven't really played anyone until this game, but, man, they impressed me. Their defense is legit. Dylan Gabriel looked very, very good. And, I think Brett Venables is, he's slowly becoming one of the top coaches in the country. He just got a huge win against Texas. I do have a question for y'all, though. I was talking to Bragg about this. Do y'all like when the ABC telecast with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit does the call in the Red River rivalry, or like Big Dune with Gus and Joel? What are y'all thoughts?
I personally love Chris and Kirk more. I'm not a Gus Johnson fan at all in the slightest. I know that disgust.
We don't need to slander
I know
one.
that disgust.
We don't need to slander one to raise the other one.
I think he's just not for me. So I'm definitely a fan of Chris and Kirk.
I agree with Harris, but I do like I like Joel and Gus, but I think
fair.
that Chris and Kirk just kind of have that like big game appeal, like national title, like huge like national game of the week kind of appeal. But I like
Yeah.
both.
And
For
like
a
I
big
feel like
game like
maybe
this past weekend. Go
yeah.
ahead, James.
And I feel like noticing too, like I feel like when you watch an ABC game, you can really tell like they pump up the crowd noise so much on ABC games, and with like the band and everything, it just feels so much more intense.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the game, I mean, it looks like we're going to see these two teams play again later this year in the Big 12 championship. I mean, do you think Oklahoma has a chance to beat them later on? We'll see. But what are y'all's other thoughts about the game?
Honestly, I wasn't super surprised, man. Like I just like seeing, even though Oklahoma was kind of playing cupcakes first few games of the season, I think just kind of looking at the box scores and how they rank defensively, I'm not surprised that this happened given kind of what we've seen. The defenses that Venables put out at Clemson over the past few years, and just kind of like the sentiments we heard about him as a coach. I really thought there was a good chance that he'd be super legit, and I really think that going forward, Oklahoma's in a really good spot over the next few years, just like being built foundationally on defense, kind of in a Bama, Georgia kind of way, and how Clemson used to be. And so I was really impressed with him this past weekend. I thought Dylan Gabriel was great. One note I have is like really, really good teams, really good offenses. I feel like almost always have a quarterback that can use his legs in crunch time. You think like Trevor Lawrence back in those like late 2010s Clemson teams, like Joe Burrow, even like a Tua. There's always like, you know, the one of the defining characteristics of a really solid team, really solid offensive team is having that quarterback that doesn't always use his legs, but it's gonna take those legs out on like 3rd and 10 to get those, you know, really important yards. So I really liked him like getting 100 on the ground. That was impressive. I think Oklahoma's going to be a really dangerous team this year. Not that Texas isn't really solid too, but Oklahoma's legit offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, they're kind of transitioning to this more defensive team, something like we haven't seen from them over the past years with Bob Stoops down the stretch and Lincoln Riley. And I think ultimately defense kind of won them this game, being able to force 3 turnovers on Quinn Ewers and their goal line stand down there. I think that's something that they wouldn't have been able to do a few years ago where this game could have resulted in a loss, but they were able to get the job done today. I think they've made a lot of improvements since last season. And that last drive, the ability to go 5 plays, 75 yards in a minute and 2 seconds, kind of shows some of the characteristics you're talking about in clutch play from their offense.
One thing I wanted to talk to y'all about was that goal line stand. You know, not something you'd think you'd see from an Oklahoma team. Because I thought, you know, some people were saying play calling, things like that. I didn't hate a lot of the play calls that Sark drew up down there. I mean, obviously sometimes you just want to sneak it 4 times. But, like, did y'all think that was more play calling or more impressive by Oklahoma?
Anytime I feel like you get a goal line stand on Sark in 4 plays, it's impressive by the defense. He's not a easy guy to defend, as we saw down here in Tuscaloosa. It looked like they scored at will when they got down to the goal line against us. I would say it was more impressive, but I think you could maybe question a play or two. I don't think that was a problem, though.
Personally, I think there's kind of been an epidemic in college football and the NFL over the first few weeks of the season, just watching teams like get down to the 2 or 3 and like goal line fade, quick screen, bubble screen, like QB draw out of the shotgun. Like, I'm pretty tired of seeing that. I like under center, I formation, power I, give it to the running back, give it to the fullback, QB sneak. Like, I'm sick of seeing the quick game stuff. I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying that's what Sark was doing, but They did go for the
Yeah.
bubble screen on 4th down. Think they had a fader like roll out in there somewhere. I'd rather just give it 4 times by running back under center and see what happens. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the reason I brought it up, though, because the people around me were saying play calling. But other than the 4th down, which I agree, you definitely could have some problems with, the other 3 were not a single person out wide, under center, give it to the running back. Granted, they threw a toss in there, which I don't know if that's the best thing. But, I mean, LSU used to do that on goal line situations, and it worked out fine for them a lot of the time. So I didn't hate it as much, but yeah, I just wanted to see what y'all thought.
yeah, I like the toss.
It's a different era from those LSU goal line stands. They don't build them in the trenches like they used to right now.
Gags.
Anything else for this game that y'all want to talk about?
No, not really. I mean, I guess. Do y'all think they'll play each other in the Big 12 championship? I mean, we're gonna see this matchup again.
I think that's pretty much a no-doubter for me.
Yeah, I don't even see it. I mean, is there any other team that could even possibly compete with them? Like, asking you guys, I can't even think of. I mean, Kansas is ranked.
Yeah, I'm not up to date on my Big 12
Big
knowledge
12
right
is
now.
like-
Might be the best contender, and Texas already blew them out. So
Yeah.
What would suck is if Texas beats Oklahoma, and then you have one loss Texas
You
that's
mean
conference
Kansas?
champion, then one loss Oklahoma that lost to Texas, and then like, what happens if you have like an undefeated Ohio State and then an undefeated like Florida State, and you've got Bama SEC champion? What works out? What happens there? I guess
Yeah.
Oklahoma wouldn't go.
I saw some crazy scenarios like that last night on social media, just kind of with all these teams, and what if they go undefeated or have one loss, but it's only the conference championship, and it kind of like made me go crazy in my head trying to think about it. But I think at the end of the day, college football season will play its way out. There'll be plenty more upsets, and I don't think we're going to get a scenario like that.
Yeah, so I mean, just to wrap up this game, I think everybody hopes that we can see some more of it later in the season. I mean, while you were watching it, it was one of those where you didn't want it to end. Moving on to a little Big Ten action, we had Maryland at Ohio State. This one ended 37-17 for the Buckeyes, but was really not near what the score said. I mean, I think it was 17-17 going into the 4th quarter. Ohio State scored 20 unanswered to end it, but really a pretty good test for Ohio State. I mean, one that a lot of people were all over Maryland plus 20. But yeah, what'd y'all think if y'all got to watch any of this game?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it. I think we all kind of saw how Maryland was going to play really well in the first half. Mike Loxley and Talia, they've been there for a while. Their offense has been getting better each week. But I just think Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State are the only 3 legit contenders in the Big Ten. I think Maryland's 4th best team, but I just don't think they got the talent to keep up with the big boys. That's all I really took away from it.
I just can't believe that Maryland did not cover the plus 20 that ended up Bush. How did you get beat by 20 points in the 4th quarter right there? Including 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. That's 4 scoring possessions in the 4th quarter. I mean, that's just...
That have made you 10-0.
I know, 9-1. We'll get to my one loser in a little bit on these quick scores.
Yeah, that was one I had completely given up on as the only person rocking the Buckeyes in that one. And then we were watching one of the other games. We were watching Oklahoma, Texas, and I heard them saying that the Buckeyes were running away with it late, and I got real excited. That was a push that helped me out. Moving on from a backdoor push to a game that a lot of us ended up thinking about, solely just for the backdoor cover, with LSU stealing one to end up winning by 10 in a game that they were losing the whole time. LSU's defense once again got shredded, giving up 527 yards, but LSU ended up outgaining them with 533, 274 on the ground, 259 through the air. and got the job done. What did y'all think about this game, and what did y'all think about that cover?
Yeah, look away, Missouri betters. I think I was the only one out of 4 of us that took LSU. But a pick six with under a minute left to cover the 5.5 spread, I did not deserve that at all. LSU, once again, shows that they are not a defensive team whatsoever. And Jane Daniels continues to carry. He had a great game himself once again. That's really it on that one.
Yeah, man, you got to feel for Missouri, and especially for Missouri bettors. I was really pulling the Tigers in this one. Really like them as a team. Really like Eli Drinkwitz, but LSU's getting underrated right now. I mean, their defense is god awful, but they're still a really dangerous team. If a Crimson Tide team comes out and Jalen Milroe forgets how to throw the ball, like he had forgotten the first 5 games of the season, we get out to a 2 or 3 touchdown deficit, I mean, LSU can still be trouble. People keep acting like they're just a dog shit team, and I disagree. That offense, they've got some horses.
I'm with you.
Yeah. What gives me confidence, though, about the Tide is, I know Brian Kelly beat us last year, but very rarely does he win in big games. And also, too, as well, we got him at home this year rather than playing in Death Valley. But, yeah, I was like you, Kusa. I was rooting for Missouri, too, and that was a brutal backdoor cover. But, yeah, I really thought that Mizzou could still be one of the them and Georgia could be the lone undefeated SEC teams after this weekend. I thought Missouri was going to win that game outright, but big win for Brian Kelly. If they would have lost, then it would be Baton Rouge be up in flames right now.
Yeah, Kuso, I agree with kind of your sentiment. That was my big takeaway is that, well, although I don't think LSU is going to go win the Natty, I think there's pretty much any team in the country that they could beat. I mean, when you're putting up yards like this and points like this with the weapons that they have, probably should be a Heisman front runner if his team was doing better in Jaden Daniels. I mean, they're not a team I'm going to want to face. Originally I was kind of like, they lost to some teams that we beat. I'm not too worried, but just when a team can put up points like that, you're never going to, be completely confident going into that game, especially with a big rival like that.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see them play Auburn this weekend. I know they're in Baton Rouge, but I really like Auburn's defense, and I'm interested to see how they hold up against LSU's offense. And they don't think they play A&M until late November, so we won't have much to go off in terms of elite defenses taking on this LSU offense.
Yeah, and moving on to the Pac-12, Washington State lost at UCLA 25-17. Once again, one of the biggest gripes of this show and around the country, Pac-12 Network again. Very frustrating, but 13 unanswered for the Bruins to win and cover. Much needed for me. I was the only one who was riding them, but any thoughts about this game?
I'm disappointed in my Cougars. This is the only game I lost against the spread last week. I called it a trap game for Washington State. Viewers wouldn't know because it got cut out. But it was a trap game. But I had to ride with them because I've been so high on Washington State quarterback Cameron Ward all year. But also shout out to UCLA running back and Chattanooga native Keegan Jones with 2 rushing touchdowns in that fourth quarter for you to get the cover there. Officially off the Washington State bandwagon now, but I still think they can make some noise and pull off another upset in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, Pac-12 is super competitive. With all those top 25 teams are kind of in that 15 to 25 range. I feel like it's just so hard to predict who's going to beat who week in, week out. But yeah, good win for the Cougars. And Coos, what do you got to take on it?
Yeah, man, I've got no idea what's going on out there in the Pac-12. Oregon State, Washington State, UCLA, Utah. I don't know what's going on. I'm not gonna act like I don't get it. I wouldn't be surprised if all these teams end up being 6-6, 7-5 at the end of the season. I don't know. I don't really trust USC either. The 2 teams I really do like are Oregon and Washington. I think they're legit. Other than that, I have no idea what's going on. This game in particular, I think I took Washington State as well. Kind of bought into the hype with the explosive offense and Cameron Ward at the helm. But obviously, I had no idea what I was talking about. None of us did, other than you brag. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how Pac-12 shakes out, especially in this like middle upper tier with some of these teams with a lot of hype but a lot of question marks around. So we'll see. It's been an interesting start to the season.
I mean, thanks for giving me credit. I think my entire description was that I see no way UCLA covers this, so I'm fading myself. Something I just thought about that would just be terrific, and they do it in basketball, and I'd love to see it in football maybe someday. But I think this year would work out great is if we had a Pac-12 SEC showdown. Like this week, I think the two conferences match up extremely well. You have a game like Oregon-Georgia again to see how that goes. Maybe we play Washington. But I think those middle-of-the-road teams, like you were just talking about, Kuso, matching up with some of those SEC West teams that nobody knows about. I mean, we got to see Utah, Florida, but just more of that. I think that would be something that would be really fun right now. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Florida and Utah was a little mismatch for us this year, so I don't think Florida's very good. I think they'll definitely be very entertaining to see. I mean, watching the conference matchups that they have in college basketball every year makes you want to see them, makes you wish they did something like that in football as well. It'll be more challenging now for next year with all this conference realignment, so that's kind of out of the realm, but I think that could have been a great opportunity this year. I think you're right. I think a lot of people think the Pac-12 might have taken over as the best conference in college football this year. Obviously, I might be a little biased towards the SEC, so I don't quite think so yet.
Who would win between Vanderbilt and Stanford? Who y'all think?
Vandy, anchor down, anchor down.
You can put that game on Pac-12 Network. I will have no problems with it. So wrapping up the Pac-12, moving back onto some SEC ball. Kentucky at Georgia under the lights in Sanford. This one got away from the Wildcats quickly. 21-0 lead out the jump for Georgia. Didn't really look back. Georgia ended up putting up 608 total yards. The Wildcats 185. Who only managed 55 on the ground after some impressive running displays. What does this make y'all think about Kentucky? But really, what does this make y'all think about Georgia going forward? Because this was just a domination in the game. I think a lot of us thought could end up being close.
As I mentioned last week, this was a game between the Jimmies and the Joes, and it was. Georgia just way more talented. I think if y'all heard what Mark Stoops said today, he even made a comment about Georgia being able to be better because they have more donations to them and can pay for players now. I think that was a little disrespectful after getting their asses handed to them and have been for the last so many years. But I think he also had somewhat of a point, and you can see his frustration as Georgia's just easily able to get more talented than someone like Kentucky. This is probably Kentucky's best coach they've ever had. So these programs are just at two completely different places and will be for a while.
Yeah, I'll say I was completely wrong about Kentucky. I always get so high on them every year because they always start off they always get ranked so high, and then their first test they always just blow it. And yeah, I mean Georgia, they're still the best team in the country, and I think if Alabama wants to win the Natty, we're gonna have to beat them twice. I really do. So yeah, I mean they stopped the run game. Kentucky couldn't do anything on the run, and then once that happened, they couldn't really throw the ball. They're not really known as a throwing team. So big win for Georgia under the lights, though. Coos, what'd you think?
Yeah, Jimmy, I'm gonna argue with you here a little bit again. I think there's a lot of overreactions around this game. Just watching the first quarter, first half of this game, what I noticed was first of all, nobody was guarding Brock Bowers on several plays, complete busted coverages, not even obviously there's a huge discrepancy Jimmy's and Joe's wise between UJ and freaking Kentucky, but there were just some blatant horrible defense that I watched in this one, and offensively too. Kentucky had some wide open receivers that Devin Leary just I mean, he couldn't even hit the wide side of a barn on some of the throws he was making. And so it really, like, obviously Georgia puts up 600 yards of offense, like, excellent performance, but, like, people need to slow down a little bit. Like, don't forget about how Georgia looked a couple weeks ago at Auburn and Jordan Hare. I mean, they easily could have lost that one. The defense was porous, could not stop Auburn's run game. I mean, not a bit. Obviously, they shut down Kentucky this week, but like, just because they do it this week doesn't erase what's happened the past few games of the season. I'll be interested to see if Georgia can carry this momentum going forward. And Carson Beck is much improved this season. I think this year, relative to the past two Georgia teams, they're probably better on offense, and significantly worse on defense. And that's, I mean, not saying they've got a bad defense given where they've been the past 2 years. I think it's a new dynamic or an interesting dynamic to kind of examine as we go forward and watch the Bulldogs season.
Yeah, I mean, I think I find myself a little bit between the two of y'all. I think there were definitely some things that I took away from this game permanently rather than brushing off a little bit. But my big thing is that Georgia at home just looked unbeatable. I'm hoping that when they go on the road to Neyland, that could be a tough test for them. But with the people on their schedule right now, I just don't see them having a chance to lose at home. So, I mean, I don't know. I think, either way, we're probably going to meet them in Atlanta, so I don't know if much of it matters. But, I mean, it was an impressive win. Is really just all I had to say.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not really too focused on the Bulldogs right now, as I think we'll see them in Atlanta, and that's when it really matters to me.
Yeah, same here. There's absolutely no shot. Like, you could play these last 6 games of the season 100 times over, and I think Georgia would get Atlanta in every single one of them. I mean, screw them for playing in the East. That East Division has been down for the past, 2 decades. I guess you had Florida at one point.
Everyone talks about the SEC dominance, but for the last 15 years outside of Georgia, we all know it's really just been the West carrying.
Yeah.
Four Tebow's there. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's frustrating too because with the West, it seems like when one team comes up and the next team kind of falters a little bit. With LSU and Auburn being pretty good some years, Alabama's still very good, and nobody ever falls too much. When Florida passed the torch to Georgia, there were about 4 or 5 years where nobody was good. So I mean, that's the thing that kind of has been frustrating is even when you could say that the West has moved around and the balance of power some, they've always been better. I mean, the East has had maybe one team that's been really solid. A lot of years, I mean, I remember some years Florida was going to the SEC championship going 7-5. So I agree with Kusa. That's something that's been frustrating for a long time.
Well, the another big game on Saturday night was Notre Dame and Louisville, and I was kind of shocked that Notre Dame lost that one. Big one for the Cards. They're going to be undefeated still. They could be a sneaky team in the ACC. What are y'all's thoughts about the game?
I mentioned this last week, how I think part of this was Notre Dame's just grueling schedule so far, 3rd-ranked game in a row, 2nd on the road. It's just really tough. 5 turnovers in their 13-point loss. It's hard for them. I feel bad for them. But big one for Louisville as they look to make a run in the ACC. They're still undefeated and jumped all the way up to 14 in the AP poll. Notre Dame's schedule doesn't really continue to get any easier as they play 10th-ranked USC at home this weekend.
You know what? I really thought this was going to be Notre Dame's year where their offense would get let loose. I thought Sam Hartman was going to come in and absolutely ball out. I mean, I watched him at Wake Forest last year, shred Clemson. He played just, absolutely incredible. I was thinking that Notre Dame's offense this year would look similar to Wake Forest last year in some of the big games I saw them play, and it's just been same old Notre Dame that we've been watching our whole life. Just pretty boring, can't pass the ball, can barely run the ball kind of offense, ho-hum, that they've always played. So really disappointed with the Fighting Irish from that aspect. And on a more positive note for Louisville, it's really impressive. They're 6-0, really, really quiet 6-0. I really hadn't heard much about their team at all up until this week, but interested to see how they look going forward. I don't know. Do they have Clemson and/or Florida State on their schedule?
I'm not sure about the regular season, but I know they are on the other side of the conference, so they may be able to avoid them both.
So
I
they
wanna
got
say they
Pitt
play
coming
Miami.
up. Yeah. They got Duke coming in
I know they
It's
don't
like-
have Florida State.
in late October. And also, too, they got to play Kentucky as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do against the Wildcats at the end of the year.
Get
But
the
yeah, they
fuck
don't
out
have
of here with
Clemson or
Kentucky.
Florida State. Well, I mean,
Where is that game,
at
Jimmy?
Louisville, but like it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. Who knows?
Yeah. That was one of the points I had about this game. I was really impressed with Louisville's atmosphere. I thought it was a really fun game. You know, kind of got me excited to watch based on how they came out and stuff. And I mean, when you're turning the ball over 5 times in an atmosphere like that against a good team, you're just not going to win. And I think this Notre Dame team is not good enough to kind of get everybody's best shot, like some of the Bamas and Georgias around the country. And you know, when you go up against a good team on the road where they're fired up for it, night game, you know, this was just kind of a recipe for disaster. I did pick Notre Dame, so I'm acting like it was an obvious pick here, but that was kind of my takeaway after the game.
I think I was the only one on Louisville there.
All right, and then last game on the schedule for the recap is Arkansas at Ole Miss. I think we started this off with a sweep with Nebraska. We end it with a sweep with everybody on Arkansas plus the points. Arkansas actually took the lead with 13 minutes left, but couldn't get the job done. What did y'all think about this game?
I think it kind of went as I expected it to. Figured Ole Miss would play unfocused after a big win over LSU. Thought Arkansas would play hard, knowing that every game is essentially a must-win to go bowling, and I think they did. I thought Ole Miss was definitely the better team as they showed and were able to pull out the 7-point victory.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why all 4 of us took Arkansas plus 11.5 in this one. To me, both Ole Miss and Arkansas are really like in the same tier within the SEC. Ole Miss is a little better team this year, but in terms of programs, they're kind of about the same. And I feel like on the field, they're almost always going to be, their games are going to result in a 10-point victory either way. Talent level's about the same, recruiting's about the same, coaching's about the same. Both good programs, but not great. Feel for KJ Jefferson because I really think he's a solid quarterback, but just watching their offensive line, it's so pathetic. I mean, looks like even worse than Alabama's was looking earlier in the season, so I feel for him, but credit to Lane Kiffin for keeping the ball rolling. Jackson Dart's really a solid quarterback, and Quinshon Judkins can run the rock, so credit to Ole Miss for getting another dub here.
Yeah, I mean, with Ole Miss, already grabbing that win against LSU and, staying consistent, getting another win against Arkansas makes us look pretty good, after we, kind of turned it up in the second half in that game and stuff. But, it'll be interesting to see. But Arkansas coming in this week for the Tide, it's going to be really interesting to see how we look, especially with an 11 a.m. game. Another thing, too, about Ole Miss, they go to Georgia on the road later this year. I mean, do you think Lane can pull any sort of trickery out of his bag, or they just don't have the dogs keep up with the Georgia Bulldogs?
No chance in hell.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
Pretty unlikely.
Like I was saying earlier, I don't think anybody on their schedule is going in. I didn't know Ole Miss was on their schedule, but I think my point still stands. I don't think anybody's getting a win in Sanford this year.
No chance.
Well, that wraps up our recap for the week. James, you can lead our next segment of winners and losers.
Yeah, so it's not like a team or a specific player or anything, but being here in Tuscaloosa, I know Harris can attest the weather's been very shitty the past couple of months, but this weekend was finally felt like fall. Finally felt like, like intense football is here. Conference games are starting to heat up. So, the fall weather, here just means, games starting getting better. We're getting closer to, playoff football and figuring out, who are the top 4 teams going to be competing for national championships. So that was the takeaway for me. It was the high on Saturday in Tuscaloosa was 71, and it was the best day all year I felt in a long time. So
I agree.
That was my winner of the weekend.
I agree with that, as I have been feeling great at practice outside. It feels like football is finally in full swing, and we're gearing up for another great season.
Yeah, it's about to be hoodie and quarter zip weather. I think everybody's excited.
Of course.
I'm going to go with our diehard foursome for nailing our picks this past week. I know Big Lil went 8-1-1. I think everybody else was over 500, so shout out to us for just being absolute college football experts and gambling experts.
Yeah, I actually think Jimmy might have struggled, but the other 3 of us looked pretty good this week.
That's what I meant.
Hey, man,
yeah.
I was in the lead after week 1. Watch your mouth, boy.
No longer. That's why it's a season, not a 1-week show.
We'll see how we do this week later on in the show.
You're right.
Big week coming up.
I'll go ahead and jump into my biggest winner of the week, and that was Oklahoma. Huge win for them, beating Texas after getting blown out and having a rough season last year, finishing 6-7 in Brent Venables' first season. They're 6-0 now with that huge win over Texas and have a favorable schedule to close out the year. They have their bye week coming up this weekend before they start their second half of the season. Their main schedule includes home games versus UCF, West Virginia, and TCU, and road games at Kansas, at Oklahoma State, and at BYU. So I think this is a team that really can make a push towards the playoffs, but another matchup with Texas is likely.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going straight to where do they play the Big 12 championship? Is that in Houston?
Dallas at Jerry
I think
World.
they're playing Jerry World now, yeah.
It is Jerry
Yeah.
World. I don't know why. I thought it was somewhere else. But yeah, I think they definitely have a ticket punch there already. I mean, I'd be shocked. I think they probably could get there with 2 losses, but I think they'll get there pretty handily with what they got the rest of the way, like you were saying. Well, yeah, I don't have a huge winner, but I want to use this time to talk about Iowa offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz and give y'all an update on how he's going this season. So they're getting very close to the 7-win threshold. Picked up their 5th win this past week. Last 2 weeks, we didn't update last week. They put up 26 last week, 20 this week. Now averaging 21.8 a game, well off the pace. They need to average 28 plus the rest of the way in order to secure his job. Hopefully his boys will be playing for his contract. But y'all think they're gonna end up securing the deal, or is he gonna be out of there?
No, that dude is so gone. It's one of those coaches in the son scenario, where the coach plays the kid. Coach gave his son the job, and he's shit in bed with it.
Yeah, I could not imagine being an Iowa fan having to watch that offense every week. I'll just make my eyeballs bleed. I mean,
That big fat 0 versus Penn State definitely did not help the average.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Kusa, why don't you lead us off with our losers of the week?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about general coaching mismanagement, clock mismanagement all across the country. I mean, the biggest headliner of the week is definitely Mario Cristobal down in Miami. He runs well and he could have taken a knee. Miami running back fumbles, and then game goes into overtime, and Hurricanes lose, no longer undefeated, no longer back. Absolutely terrible mistake. How do you not realize that? I have no idea. But, at the same time, you see, similar really boneheaded mistakes that other coaches are making all across the country. Even in the Bama A&M game, Coach Saban, the absolute GOAT, and I really don't even think this is Saban's fault. I think it's probably more on Milroe, trying to avoid a review from the booth. But after Jace McClellan gets that first down, really to end the game, we go to a quick pass to a quick screen pass across the field. Absolute one-hops in the dirt, stops the clock, no longer can kneel the ball out, gives every Tide fan in the world an absolute heart attack. That was absolutely horrible. And then See Jimbo Fisher making some stupid clock decisions too. I think those are just him being an absolute idiot. But long story short, I think the coaches need, like, how they have so many freaking analysts. Make one of those like an absolute like stats nerd who could tell you exactly when to go for it, when not to go for it. Like in certain key situations, somebody to tell you exactly what to do and how it'll affect the clock. That's my rant for the show.
Yeah.
I like it, Kuso. I will say I had completely forgot about that. You just gave me some nightmare flashbacks again. I don't understand why our go-to like run it fast play isn't just like Milrow or Jace up the middle. The fact that we got to swing it out wide, like with a minute and a half left, I was like, I guess like you said, you kind of understood the sentiment of it, but you're like, why is that the play call? Can we at least not have like a 1 for air and 2 for ground type thing? Like the fact that we're putting the ball in the air there was just ridiculous.
And he just one hops it, skipping a step.
I think the play call there, obviously it was quick and they were trying to be through view. I think it was an RPO though, and Milrow obviously saw Malik Benson had nobody on him out wide, and instead of knowing the clock and knowing the game and knowing to just hand the ball off or even just take a snap and take a knee, he progressed with the read, throwing it out wide to Benson, just right in the dirt, as y'all mentioned. I don't necessarily think it was Coach Saban's fault. I think he was just as confused as the rest of us. Fortunately, though, for us, it turned out the right way, unlike it did for Miami. Yeah, so Miami was my biggest loser of the week as well. I mean, what do we do in Miami? Hands down the worst situational football and clock management I've ever seen. All they had to do was obviously take a knee, and I don't think Mario Cristobal's response made it any better. He mentioned that when they started the sequence on first down that they weren't able to take a knee yet and run out all the clock, and then said they should have called a timeout when the clock went under 40, which is just horrible because if you're going to say you should have just done it then and there. He then tried to place some of the blame on the running back by saying we teach them to hold it with 2 hands, and that was very clearly not all the running back's fault. He's coached in hundreds of games and gets paid millions of dollars just to give his team that. It's absolutely horrible. I can't even blame the defense for giving up 69 yards in 24 seconds to give Georgia Tech the game-winning touchdown, even though it was horrible defense, because they shouldn't have even been on the field to begin with. I mean, y'all can chime in if y'all have any other thoughts on it, but that was just absolutely horrible.
I mean, easily the worst coaching we've seen all throughout the regular season. I mean, I think anyone who has a decent football knowledge or IQ knows to take a knee in that situation.
Yeah, that's my loser of the year.
Yeah.
So something I saw that I want y'all's thoughts on about it. I heard somebody say that the running back actually had 99 yards going into that, and people think that Cristobal is trying to get him 100. Do y'all buy into that at all, or what do y'all think?
That's ridiculous. I think the professional in football games not give people stat lines. I doubt I don't even know if the coaches would really know he was at 99 at that point. I don't think that's what you're thinking about with 35 seconds left.
Yeah, Harris, did Alabama coaches, they like kind of, I mean, obviously they like keep up with the stats, but like on the field and stuff, do they like kind of like mention it at all or anything, or do you really know?
Never. That's the last thing we're worried about.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what's your loser?
Yeah, so my loser of the week actually occurred when we were recording last week. It was a midweek Conference USA game. Jacksonville State, Middle Tennessee State. Of course, Bama played Middle Tennessee State earlier this year. They were up pretty heavily, 23-7 going into half, and Jacksonville State ended up scoring 38 second half points. So JSU came back and won 45-30. So thought that was a game that people could have missed. Obviously, with small FBS ball, but just bad way for MTSU to lose. They're 1-5 now. So.
Yeah, my loser was all the we're back teams are not back. We had Miami and Notre Dame and Texas all losing this last week, so just tough for the blue bloods that are back. I think we've still got a little waiting on them.
Well, one blue blood that is not going anywhere anytime soon is, of course, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Huge,
yes, sir.
Huge victory on the road in College Station, 24-20. I mean, probably our best game of the year that we've played so far. Boys, I want to hear y'all's thoughts. What?
Wrong
love it.
score.
I love
You
the
said the
energy.
wrong score.
Oh yeah, I did say the wrong score. Oh, all right, let's restart again. Sorry.
No, we're not restarting. Go. This is all staying in.
No, dude, no. I meant to say 26-20. Fuck. I literally had it written down right here too.
Give us your thoughts on the game.
I'll start. You can sit down for a minute, Jimmy, and gather your thoughts after that. I can talk about this game for a while, and I think I will. To begin with, I really liked what Josh Pate said about this game, because I think it speaks volume, not just for Alabama, but for how the sport of college football works in certain circumstances and scenarios. As A&M could go 8-4 or 7-5, and no one would look at this at the end of the year as a super quality win for Alabama, but this was truly a 60-minute dogfight, and A&M played as hard as they could, knowing this game could play a huge factor in who gets to Atlanta in December for the SEC championship. And for Alabama to go into that hostile environment at this point in the season and to come away with a victory was a big win and wasn't easy at all. A consistent factor that a lot of casual fans just ignore is that every team Alabama plays year after year always gives them their best effort, and as it would make several teams as programs and save several coaches' jobs.
Josh Pate, quote unquote, said, "You should have got him while you could, because they're not losing another game the rest of the season." And he is damn right when he said that.
I love the enthusiasm on the Tide right now, Kuso. We haven't always seen it this year. Give us some more thoughts on what you like right now from the team.
Well, I'll give you. I definitely did take away some positive thoughts from that one, but there's definitely still a lot of negative. I'll say this: Milroe was insane. Like, I don't know where that came from, because it has not been here this entire season. Like, he was so accurate on all intermediate and deep throws. Like, everything was perfect. There were a few just like really like short dump off throws that like he completely missed. I've never seen a quarterback who does that like he does. But anyways, not to take anything away, I think it's just crazy random. But yeah, he was great. I thought offensive line in terms of pass blocking was better than I was expecting. I think they held up for like really long stretches. Like, gave Milroe plenty of times for most of the game. In terms of the run game, it was pathetic. Just about, it was probably worse than I was expecting. I thought we'd have more than like 15 rushing yards. But, I mean, we got the job done. Not going to complain too much. Defense is absolutely, I mean, we're back, baby. We are so back. We are so back. We're like 2016 back, and it feels so good. I mean, when we were thinking about doing MVPs of the week, my MVP was Kevin Steele. I don't know if it's actually him or not, but like whatever is back in the water and the defensive on the defensive side of the ball in Tuscaloosa, it is working. Like, our secret sauce is back. The interior D line is ferocious. I mean, we should have had a block. We should have had a block field goal for a touchdown. We had our first pick six last week. Like, oh my God, that fourth quarter with the safety where we drove them back 25 yards into a safety. Oh my God, it just felt like it was 2011 again. Like, I loved it. I'm so proud of this defense. I feel like we're on offense, we're on defense now. Super proud of it. I feel like the coordinator change really did make a big difference. But like, finally, book noting my segment with a little more negative thoughts on the offense. I'm still just like really disappointed in the fact that like it seems like our offensive scheme has not changed at all since 2021. And how I felt about this game was that like our play calling and like how we operate our offense has not changed at all since 2021. Somehow on Saturday, Jalen Milroe just turned into Bryce Young. Like, that's how it seemed like to me. It felt like we were playing the 2021 SEC championship where Bryce Young shredded the Georgia Bulldogs defense. I felt like Jalen Milroe kind of did that with the A&M defense, which I was not expecting whatsoever. I don't know how that happened. I hope that somehow we can find a way to get more creative in terms of running the ball, and our offensive line can gel a little bit more, and we can establish the line of scrimmage, especially in the run game. Still haven't really seen that how we thought we were going to see it this year, but overall, not going to complain too much. I like where we're at. We've got a downhill road from here. So really proud of the Tide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to jump into that you addressed, and then Jimmy, you can give your thoughts too. Is, I thought you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, we got plenty more on the Tide. Just one thing I love that you're talking about is how the defenses just really came together. I mean, we talked about on this show last week, where we really have highlighted the DBs. Really the edge rushers have come along in recent weeks. I think Dallas Turner's leading the NCAA in sacks right now. And then I think last week we talked about how the linebackers have come along, and I think this week was the week for the interior D-line to be that final step to where we really think we have a dominant defense. Like Kuso was saying, you're excited when we're on the defensive side of the ball. But, I mean, I think we had 2.5 sacks in the interior D-line. We had interior D-linemen were like 2 of the top 3 leaders in tackles. Of course, you have Caleb Down get in there at number 2 because he's just been a monster all year. But, yeah, I think that was just kind of the final piece to the defensive puzzle. I love this defense so much, like you were saying.
I mean, also, too, with our defense, I mean, going into half, I mean, we're giving up 17 points, we're down 7, and coming out in the second half, we only give up 3 points, on the road in College Station when they're just, hungry for an upset. And also, too, on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, it was so nice to see Jermaine Burton literally have, kind of a legacy game for him. It was just fun seeing him, out in space, create plays. And obviously after the game, there's some videos going online about him having fun with the Texas A&M fans and everything. But, I'm awfully proud of the Tide. I was super nervous coming into this game, just like everyone was. But like y'all all said, I mean, the defense is incredible. I love our defense so much. I don't know what Kevin Steele has done to this defense in a short amount of time, but it is really fun to watch. Harris, who was your MVP in the game for the Tide?
Yeah, so that's why I want to talk a little more about the game in itself. I'll get to my MVP in a second. First of all, I just wanted to say that I'm also very proud of our defense, especially in that second half, playing without Malachi Moore there. Terron Arnold switched over to the star position, and Trey Amos was brought in to play the other quarterback. I thought they held up very well versus very talented receivers in Aniyah Smith, Evan Stewart, and Moose Muhammad. I thought that Caleb Downs' interception was very timely in swinging the momentum of the game, and then the blocked field goal along with the safety that happened in the fourth quarter. But I think the biggest play in this one was made by my MVP for the week, which was Caleb Downs. On a play down the stretch where Aniyah Smith broke free, Caleb Downs was able to track him down and force him out of bounds, which was very impressive by him, as Aniyah Smith had made our defense look silly several times. And I thought being able to hold him from being out of the end zone with 3:16 left in the game, being able to hold them to a field goal, taking an additional minute and 2 seconds off the clock in one of their timeouts. I think if Caleb Downs didn't stop them there, they are only down by 2 with 3:16 to go in all 3 timeouts, which would remind Alabama fans a lot of scenarios. And 2 years ago, being at College Station, and last year at Tennessee and at LSU. So ultimately being able to do that, I think, carried us to the wins, and Caleb Downs was my MVP in this one.
Yeah, my MVP was also Caleb Downs. It was more so for the pick. We're down 17-10. Coming out of halftime, we had just thrown a pick. 2 plays later, he gets an interception. I thought that could have been play of the game. But, yeah, I like the point that you brought up, Harris. I remember watching that live and just thinking, even if it only runs off 7 more seconds from them having to score again, that was just an awesome play. For it to result in another minute runoff plus the field goal, I mean, I thought that was really one of the plays of the game. That was something we were talking about a lot after the game, though, just what was everybody's play of the game? Mine was the interception by Caleb because, I think we went on a 16-0 run from that point. But what everybody think?
I mean,
I agree with you, bro.
Mine was the play when Caleb Downs pushed me out of bounds. If he doesn't make that play, I'm not 100% sure we're able to get out there with the win with the way the offense played the last couple of drives. We're going to try to need to run the ball to milk clock off in their timeouts, but not being able to really do that in that game. I mean, we only had like 20 3 rushing yards on 26 carries, I think it was. That's pretty poor there.
You're talking about like when his like ankle like barely grazed the white, right?
Yeah, on the touchdown play. They called it a touchdown play, but they got called back.
Yeah. That's an underrated huge moment.
I mean,
That's
for
a
a
good
freshman
one.
to make that play on a receiver that talented, it's truly underrated. That's not something you see every day.
I feel like we're starting to see Caleb Downs like week in and week out kind of being in everyone's MVP discussion for sure. I mean, he's just such a huge impact, and even as a freshman, I mean, imagine this dude when he's going to be a junior. He's going to be a freak, and, you know, draft analysts are going to be drooling when they see him play later on when he gets a little bit older and gets a little bit more games under his belt. But my play of the game, I thought that Jace McClellan reception at the end of the game when he bobbled it, tipped it up back to himself. At first, I really thought he had his knee on the ground. Then when they showed it on TV with the slow mode, I mean, we all started going crazy, and we kind of knew like the game was pretty much sealed from that point. So just knowing that A&M wasn't going to get the ball back, it was nice to see that happen.
Yeah, Jimmy, I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about that replay. It was really an awesome moment to where, you know, everybody got to watch the exact same thing in slow motion where you assumed his knee was down, and then everybody saw his knee go down in the replay, and then everyone collectively saw the knee come off as he caught it. It was one of those where you didn't need a second angle. Everybody kind of got that collective excitement, you know, watching it with a bunch of buddies. That was just a really fun moment. I think that definitely would be up there.
Yeah, well, I do want to ask Harris about this. Harris went to the Midnight Yell at A&M. How was the atmosphere at the game and like College Station in general? Because I've never been and always wanted to take a trip out there to witness a game when the Tide plays them. How was it?
I think it's definitely an atmosphere that was right up there with LSU and Tennessee last year. I remember I took my earpiece out for a little bit so I could really just hear the crowd, and it was hard to even hear myself think. I was just sinking in all the noise, and I'm like, this is awesome. It's time to play.
And I'll say one more thing about this performance last week. Going off Harris's big play where Caleb Downs knocked Anaya Smith out of bounds on like the 3 or whatever. Right then and there, I was thinking, like, all right, this is exactly what happened last year versus Tennessee. This is exactly what happened versus LSU. Like, we just put ourselves in a horrible position due to some, like, missed tackles. We're going to get the ball back and go 3 and out. They're going to get the ball back. Like, we're going to have some busted coverage, and they're going to kick a field goal to win the game. But then what happened this game that hasn't happened last year, didn't happen last year, and really didn't happen in 2021, is our defense stepped up. Like, had 2 big stops, and they have the holding penalty. Caleb Downs makes that great tackle, which was another underrated Caleb Downs play on Max Johnson's brother, the tight end at like the 2-yard line. Like absolutely perfect form tackle, forces them in the field goal. We burned like a minute and a half off the clock. Like, that didn't happen last year. We really haven't been getting those goal line stops. That was huge. Our defense has turned into like an absolute dynamo. So really looking forward to continuing to see our defense get better and better and us bottle up some explosive offenses going forward.
Yeah, one more thing I just want to talk about on the offensive side of the ball. I've been talking a lot of defense, but this was, you know, like Kuso was saying, the last couple of years our offense just hasn't been as dynamic. I think this was the first game I might have seen in a long time where it felt like receivers were actually running open. And I think a lot of that had to do with us taking deep shots. I know, Kuso, you talked about how the run game creativity could be a lot better, but I thought our passing game just looked so much better when we were throwing the ball deep. You know, we were letting our receivers make some plays. Like James was saying, you know, a legacy-changing game from Jermaine Burton. I think he's thought about completely different among Tide fans. Isaiah Bonds had another great performance. So, I mean, I thought that, you know, just seeing some receivers open and you know, Jalen being able to hit them was just really refreshing. And, I don't know, it makes me think that, like, a game like LSU, we might still be able to go put up 40-something against a bad defense in games like that, where if we do get in a shootout, you know, it makes me think that we'll be able to throw the ball deep and do things like that, which is something you have to do to win a national championship. You can't dink and dunk and throw screen passes all day.
I think our offense is finally starting to come together and emerge and just get more comfortable with one another, especially in the passing game, getting more comfortable with middle to receivers. Like you said, I saw so many times where receivers were running open and we were actually connecting to them there. That was great to see, and I look forward to seeing more of that.
Harris, what do you think is going on with the inability to not have several false starts every away game? How are we this bad for this long?
I mean, I sit there and learn the same thing too. Obviously, we had 14 penalties for 99 yards and several false starts. I mean, we even brought in we played 2 left tackles in the game. You don't really see that every day. We started off with Caden Proctor, switched to Elijah Pritchett, ended up going back to Caden Proctor. That's not really something you want to see from your offensive line.
All right, do we have any more thoughts on the Tide before Jimmy intros us into our exciting matchup with the Razorbacks this week?
Well, time to flip the page. Huge win for the Tide past week, obviously, but Arkansas this week, I mean, early kick, homecoming, 11 a.m. I mean, I think everyone expects Alabama to win. Spreads around 19.5. What did y'all's take on the game? What's kind of y'all's picks leading into this game?
I'm looking forward to us really just keep improving, continue to get better. I hope to see us be able to run the ball better this week than we did last week, and just praying we don't have any more touchdowns called back. We've had 6 on the year. And overall with that, just reducing the penalties in general. I know we've struggled more with penalties on the road, and this is the home game, but we got to be more disciplined all around. Preparation builds execution, and being disciplined matters.
What's your score
My
prediction,
score
Harris?
prediction this one, I think the Tide roll pretty easily here. I got us 37-13.
Yeah, I'd like to just see us keep the ball rolling. It'd be nice to see Milroe looking hot like he did last week versus A&M. I don't need him to go out for 325 and a couple tutties like he did last week, but I'd like to see just some consistencies in the passing game, and hopefully that'll open up the run game a little bit more for us. I'm skeptical, just given what it's looked like the first 6 weeks of the season, but hopefully maybe as the season goes on, our offensive line gels a little bit more. We get a little more consistency there, and then finally, I'm hoping we'll get to that point that we were expecting before the season, where we have the dominant offensive line, the run game really opens up. Maybe eventually, we've been hoping for Jam Miller and Justice Haynes appearances all season. I'm hoping eventually that'll come. I don't know, but I hope the offense looks improved and continues to improve. Hope the defense continues to be dominant. I think we're going to have a solid performance. I'm going to go with 31-10 Bama.
I like both of those scores. Talking about the run game, hoping it opens up. Ole Miss put up 196 on the ground versus Arkansas last week. I'm hoping that's something that applies to our game, because I think having a game where we really dominate the run and open up the pass, like you were saying, Kuso, would be awesome. I'm going to be super optimistic here. I'm going to go 52-10. I think we could. This is a game I think we could get out to a 21-28-0 lead and just not look back and just be having the time of our lives. So I'm gonna be as optimistic as possible. I think we're riding high this podcast, so I'm just gonna keep those vibes going.
I like it. I mean, no better way to start off the Saturday than just the Tide just dismantling an SEC foe at home. KJ, he's good, but I mean, I don't really know who else Arkansas has. I know they don't have any SEC wins, and they lost to BYU earlier this year. I like Alabama to win. I like it 42-10.
Hey, don't forget about Rocket Sanders, Jimmy. He's a solid running back.
Yeah.
I think that
All
covers.
right, on to our picks for the week.
Oh yes, I think that covers it for the Tide Talk. Now we'll move to my favorite segment of the show, College Football Week 7 picks. All of these lines come from FanDuel Sportsbook. Remember, if you or someone you know has a problem gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll start off here with the afternoon slate. I think I'll be able to watch all the games this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. We got Kansas State -3.5 at Oklahoma State. Even though Oklahoma State beat Kansas State last week at home, I like Kansas here. I think their program is trending in the right direction. We're playing equal, and I think Oklahoma State's trending in the opposite direction, so I'll take them.
Yeah, Harris, the way you were talking there, I thought we had our first sponsor all of a sudden. But
It's in the works.
I
It's in
do
the
appreciate
works.
I do appreciate the warning for the people. I'm just gonna take Kansas in this game. I've liked Kansas all year. They've let me down in the Texas game, but I'll hope that they do me right this time.
Yeah, this one's tough because Oklahoma State's at home, but I kind of agree with Bragg here. I just really like Kansas's offense. I really like Jalen Daniels. Don't have much conviction here, but going to go Jayhawks minus the points.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with all y'all. I like Kansas. It's fun watching Jalen Daniels play, and I like rooting for teams who haven't really been traditionally good in football, and they finally get good. It's fun to see them play well and stuff. So I'm gonna go with Kansas in this one.
All right, next up we got our game of the week here. Oregon plus 2.5 at Washington. I think all eyes will be on this game, so I'm excited for this one. It'll tell us a lot more about the Pac-12, which has looked great to start the year. I think I got to ride with the home team here, laying less than a field goal in Washington, and the better quarterback in Michael Penix.
Yeah, so got another great game on the ABC this week at 2:30. But we've been talking about this game since the podcast's inception. Cannot wait to watch both these teams. Really haven't watched a full game from either. I like Washington here. I think Oregon, from what I would have thought, would be closer to like a 5.5, maybe 6.5. I think 2.5 doesn't make any sense. Wait, is Washington favored in this game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well then that makes even less sense to me. So that's when you know you fade yourself. Go Washington minus the points. Sorry, our graphics guy messed me up a little bit, but but yeah, I like the Huskies in this one. Really, just because I have no idea what's gonna happen.
I'm gonna go against the grain here. I really like Oregon's program. I really like Dan Lanning. I think Oregon is a Pac-12 team that's built like an SEC program. They've got SEC type Jimmys and Joes, and they've got a coach that hails from the Southeast at a defensive-minded SEC institution. Actually, two of the best in Bama and Georgia. I like Washington too. They're really well coached, but I don't think they quite have the same level of players that Oregon has. I think Oregon's going to win here, or they're going to cover, and they're going to win outright as well. Make it Kuso's lock of the week.
Ooh. Oof. Yeah, I'm going to agree with Kuso. I love Oregon. I think they're going to win the Pac-12. Kind of scares me on the road, but I think Lanning's a really good coach. Give me Oregon to cover the 2.5 point spread. I think they'll get the victory.
All right, moving on to our SEC game of the week, I'd call it. We got Texas A&M plus 3.5 at Tennessee. I personally don't know what A&M has left in the tank after last week's brawl with Alabama. I could really see this game going either way, though. I want to take Tennessee. I just don't think they're that good this year. Joe Milton's been disappointed. They lost Brew McCoy 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to ride with the Aggies here to bounce back, as Tennessee could have a potential look-ahead game to Alabama next week.
I kind of like that take a lot. I think Tennessee actually gives us a game. I was thinking about how it would just make sense for Joe Milton to just go off against us. But all right, well, I'm not gonna go all the way and make everything about Bama, but I do like Tennessee dropping one and kind of a look ahead, like Harris was saying. I'll get A&M plus the points.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree here. I think Texas A&M's really underrated, and not necessarily that this line is indicative of that, but I think it's unbelievable A&M's not ranked. I know they've got 2 losses, but that defense, I mean, their defensive line is a top 10 defensive line of the past 10 years. I mean, they have 3 first-round picks on their front 7. I haven't seen our running game get completely stood up like that, absolutely eliminated since Saban's been there. That's a really good front 7. There's obviously a ton of weakness in the secondary, but Tennessee leads the SEC in rushing, so it's going to be strength on strength, and I think A&M's front is going to completely shut them down. Don't really trust Milton to be able to throw the ball. Going to go with A&M here, and I think they're going to win outright.
Ooh, Ooh, I might fade all y'all. I might take Tennessee. There's really no like bias or any, or like not like bias, but like no really like I don't really know much about the game. I think it's going to be a coin flip, but I just like Tennessee at home, and yeah, I'm just going to fade y'all and see what happens. Could be slandered for it, who knows? But we'll see next week.
That's right. We'll stay in the SEC here for a couple more matchups. We got Auburn plus 11.5 at LSU. I like LSU here. I don't really know why, because I hate betting on bad defenses. I took them last week and it worked, so I'll take them again here. I think Auburn's just pretty bad overall, and this one's in Death Valley. I see them winning by a couple scores here.
Yeah, I think under the lights, 6 p.m. Central kick in Death Valley. In my opinion, or in fact, LSU always has Auburn's number, it seems to be, even when Auburn has a good team. I know it's a lot of points, but I'm going to take the LSU Tigers in this one, kind of going away pretty early.
Yeah, I agree here. I just don't think, without a home field advantage to slow LSU's offense down, I just really can't see Auburn hanging around here. I mean, they can run the ball really well, and their defense is solid, but they're not going to be able to hang in there with Jalen Daniels and crew. I think LSU is going to put up at least 35 plus on Auburn's defense, and I can't see Auburn replicating that.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with all y'all. I just don't think Auburn. I just don't think Hugh Freeze year one tough game on the road. I just don't think they're ready for that yet. I think LSU gets a big victory. And yeah, I just don't know how well Auburn's defense is going to do against LSU's offense. And playing on the road for Robbie Ashford or Peyton Thorne, whoever the hell it is, I don't know, but I just don't think they're that great. So I like LSU.
All right, our last SEC matchup is Missouri plus 2.5 at Kentucky. Both teams are coming off their first loss of the season here. Jimmy, I'm still not buying that Kentucky hype. I'll take Missouri plus the points on the road. I think it's a pretty even matchup. I just think I like Missouri's offense better.
Yeah, I like Missouri too. I think that they feel that they should have beat LSU. I think that they're going to try and make their record prove how good they are this week. So, I think Kentucky's battered down. You could get kind of that, just beat Bama or just lost to Bama type fatigue. I think Georgia could do that to a team like Kentucky. So I'm going to take Missouri plus the points in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mizzou too. It might be recency bias just because Kentucky just got absolutely throttled by Georgia, but I also just really like Missouri. I don't think that Kentucky has the offensive firepower to hang around with the Missouri that I'm pretty confident is going to shred Kentucky just like Georgia did last week. So I'm going to go with Kentucky plus the points, Missouri plus the points. And once again, I think I'm going to take Mizzou outright, even on the road.
Yeah, Harris, you are right. I've been high on Kentucky ever since the offseason, but I think I'm coming to realization now. I'm going to ride with y'all. I like Mizzou. Yeah, I don't know why I got so hyped on them after the Florida game. I guess it was just their rushing performance. But, man, if they can't run the ball, then their offensive passing game really struggles. And Mark Stoops, he's getting a lot of hate in the media right now with his NIL comments. So, yeah, I like Mizzou.
Moving farther along the East Coast, we got Miami plus 3.5 at North Carolina. You couldn't pay me to say Miami here, even as a joke. That's my loser of the year. And this UNC team is good and led by Drake May. Shocked this line is only 3.5 after the disaster we watched in Miami last week. I got Tar Heels by 90.
Just because I think I've had the same pick as Harris so far on every single one, I'm just straight off that, I'm going to take Miami plus the points. I need to gain in the standings a little bit on them. I think I'm 2 points behind. So, I'm just going to take Miami and hope that one works out well for me.
I think Miami might be down by 4 with like a minute left in the ball, and they'll probably try to kneel it out. So.
Just to breathe.
I'm gonna go with UNC here. don't really have a gut feeling on this one. Seeing Miami shred A&M in week 2 kind of has me feeling uneasy about this one, but I just love Drake May. He's a baller. I hope Miami gets shredded.
Yeah, I like UNC in this one. Drake May, like you said, Kuso, he's a stud, and you know UNC, they've been a pretty good team all year. I've been riding with them, you know, about every week, and it's done pretty well. So I'm gonna keep riding with them until it fails. So UNC.
All right, staying in the Carolina State, we got NC State at Duke. NC State's plus 3.5 here, and I really wish Riley Leonard wasn't questionable. I don't think he'll play, but it says the stats is unclear. But I would love to take Duke here, as NC State has just looked atrocious to me to start the year despite their 4-2 start. I kind of bought into this Duke Cinderella story so far. Something tells me it's going to be a really weird game, though, so I guess I'll bite on NC State in the points.
Dang, I kind of wanted to do the same thing. I thought you were leading this down at Duke minus 3.5.
I pulled a Lee Corso not so fast.
Yeah, well, I think you're going the correct speed. I'm gonna go NC State plus 3.5 in this one too. Yeah, that's all I got.
I actually like Duke here. I mean, I'm really just basing this off the Clemson and Notre Dame games, but I really like Duke's athleticism on defense, and I think that's gonna that and the home field advantage, which was actually pretty significant in that Clemson game. Duke's, I don't even know what the hell Duke's football field is called. I was about to say Cameron Outdoor. But, yeah, I don't know, but those boys were rocking. And I'm going with the Blue Devils in this one, Riley Leonard or no Riley Leonard.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Kuso. I really like Duke's defense. I watched NC State play against Virginia this year, who Virginia is one of the worst Power 5 teams, and they probably should have lost that game. Even though without Riley Leonard, I like them at home. Give me Duke.
All right, we got 2 more games left. Both top 25 matchups, and both include Pac-12 teams. First, we got USC plus 2.5 at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is playing their 4th consecutive ranked opponent in a road here, and they don't seem to get any easier since ranked USC goes to South Bend Saturday night. This is a game, though, where I'm more than happy to take the better defense at home. USC's defense is so bad, this game would be a blowout if Caleb Williams weren't at quarterback. You know, maybe he'll tear his ACL in the second quarter of this one. Who knows? I'm taking Notre Dame either way.
Well, either way, you know, first off, Harris, I think it's despicable that you would wish an injury just for your. Yeah, I am gonna have to agree with Harris though. I think Notre Dame wins this one. I think they're as we have a future guest picker, Boyd, with the sniffles in the background. But yeah, I'm gonna take Notre Dame minus the points. I think their fans are gonna be super excited for this one. You know, kind of getting let down the past couple weeks. I think at home, I just don't see them getting beat in this game. But I think it's gonna be an awesome one to watch for sure.
All right, I'm going against the grain here again. Going with another road underdog. The way I'm looking at this one, all right, if USC's at Notre Dame, they're getting 2.5 points. I feel like if USC and Notre Dame were on a neutral field, I would take USC all day. Take Caleb Williams. I know they've got the defensive problems, but on their 4th really difficult game in a row, I just don't think. I don't think Notre Dame's. I'm taking USC outright again. Notre Dame's offense has just been weak, week in and week out, just not living up to the standard of what I thought it was going to be. I think USC really hasn't had anything big to get up for so far this season. I think Caleb Williams is going to come in with 2 healthy ACLs throughout the whole game and absolutely shred Notre Dame's defense.
I like that take too, Coos. Yeah, I just think Notre Dame's just really worn down. I think USC kind of gets in a bounce-back game after a scare with Arizona last Saturday night. I like them to get the huge win on the road. I like USC plus 2.5.
seems like this week's battle is going to be between me and Bragg versus Jimmy and Kusos. There have been a lot of similarities there. Our final
Collusion
game
going
up,
on.
Our final game up is UCLA plus 3.5 at Oregon State. I think Oregon State is the better and more physical team here, so I'll take them. I don't quite trust UCLA's freshman quarterback Dante Moore to go win this game on the road in a battle between these two Pac-12 teams.
Are we doing plus 3.5 or plus 4?
3.5.
Can we do 4?
Sure.
Bet the push.
Yeah, I was gonna bet the push. There's been no even odds. Everything's been 0.5 this whole week.
Talk to fans.
I'm gonna
Talk
make.
to our sponsor about this.
Well, what's the consensus? Should we vote on
Yeah,
it?
take the 4 and you get the
We'll
push.
do the full.
Yeah.
Caesars
I
has
think
it at
just-
4. That's what I got these from on CBS app.
moved
All right.
up
Well,
to 4.
until FanDuel pays us, we're gonna put this one at 4. I'm gonna take the push. I think it's gonna give me a huge advantage in the pick'em going forward. I'm gonna go for my 5 points. Yeah, that's really all my analysis for that one. I just really wanted to bet a push one time, especially after the Ohio State game pushed last week and nobody was on it. I feel like we got to take advantage of these
That's
situations.
fine. I'm right on the same pick as me again.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and say that's not going to happen because Oregon State is going to win by 13 points at home. You can book it. That's going to happen. That's all I've got to say about it.
Book it with Coos.
Yeah, Coos, I'm gonna have to agree with you too. I think it's the lock of the week. I like Oregon State at home against UCLA.
All right, well, that wraps up Week 7 college football picks. The current standings as follows. First place is yours truly with 13. Second place, we got Bragg with 11. Third place is Jimmy after falling off the top from last week with 10. And fourth remains Kuso with 8.
I'm a second half kind of guy. I'm just warming up.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think that 52-10 this week's really gonna get me in the lead. I don't know if we've had anybody get some points from the tied games, but I got a feeling that might happen this time.
You know, I wish it would. I really wish it does.
I hope someone hits a push. That would actually just be awesome to see. That would shake up the standings so much. To see that.
Jimmy, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, so that is it for episode 3 of the Diehards. Glad that y'all tuned in to listen. Take advantage of every Saturday because we only get so many in the fall. Big week this week, of course. A lot of implications in the Pac-12. Let's see what Alabama can do with their homecoming. And then, of course, A&M, can they bounce back after losing to Alabama? Can they bounce back on the road against Tennessee? It's going to be a good one. Guys, thoughts? How about a little MVP prediction before we go? Who do y'all think is going to be the MVP? And then when we record the next episode, we'll see if that holds true or not. Harris, I'll start with you. Who do you think is going to be the MVP for us?
Oh, actually put me on the spot because I was getting my thinking cap on. I'll ride with Dallas Turner this week. I know it's a very obvious answer, but I think he continues to play well and he gets a couple sacks in this one.
I'll go ahead. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry gets a punt return for a touchdown this game. I think it's going to be one of those where just everything's going right. Even if he plays bad the rest of the game, if that happens, he's going to be my MVP for sure. So that's my prediction.
All right, I'm going to say we're going to finally commit to run the rock. We're going to give it to Jace McClellan for 20-plus times, and he's going to break the 150-yard mark for, I think, the first time in his career. God, I really hope I'm right about this one.
Dang, Mike. I was going to guess Chase McClellan too, but, man, you put me on the spot. I don't really know. Honestly, I'm going to say Jalen. I think he just keeps up how well he plays, and I think he's going to rush for I'd say he's going to rush for 2 touchdowns and throw for a tutty. I like Jalen to be the MVP.
All right, well, that does us here for episode 3 of the Diehards. Look forward to talking to y'all next week, recapping some big games and updating the standings. But for now, roll damn Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Yes, sir. Roll Tide.
So we stay on though, don't we?
Yeah, so I'm going to stop the recording. Let's see. Wonder if this is gonna stop for everybody.
I'm still rolling. No.